Ready to go?
I'm Sarah Benal. I'm the Outreach Program Manager at Heartland Conservation Alliance. I live in the Waldo area, and we work a little bit like in the South KC area, about 60th and Bannister Road. And so the ride itself is pretty straightforward. We just hop on Bannister and go straight. But I carpool with my husband, who works at St. Regis Academy, which is luckily just like half a block south from us, or half a mile south from us. And so we leave super early. It's pretty low traffic, it's very quiet. And so we really take that moment to just kind of be quiet. My husband might doze off a little bit. We play like NPR very quietly in the background. And so it's really a moment to start of like really wake up and like start the day. The hardest part of it is a lot of the times we're driving right into the sun. So really invested in a pair of prescription sunglasses, which is great. But for the most part, I take my husband to work and then I turn around and I come back here. And usually I'm the one who has the car throughout the day, just because there's a lot of back and forth with this job. But then at the end of the day, usually around between 3 or 4, I go and pick him up and we go the same route home. So it's pretty straightforward, but I like the reliability of it. I like being able to be with my husband first thing in the morning, even though we're not talking, and then right at the end of his day, which we're often not usually talking either, because it's got to decompress a little bit, but it's nice to sort of begin and end the workday with my family in that way. I have always carpooled my entire life. I did not get a car when I was 16. I got one a couple years later, but like, to be honest, I don't love cars. I'm not familiar with the jargon. I get a little like stressed out going to mechanics and stuff like that. And so I've also tried to avoid just having my own, and I don't really feel like that's a responsibility I want to take on. But then also, like, because I didn't have a car, I grew up like asking my friends for rides, or like I took the bus in college all the time, or I'm a big walker. I have moved to a lot of different apartments for schools and living situations, and I always put an emphasis on trying to find a space that was close to the things I love. So sometimes that was school. As I grew up, it was the library. So I lived pretty close to the Waldo Library and I walked to it all the time. Having things like coffee shops and grocery stores are perks, but I didn't always have those. So if there weren't stores nearby, like having some good sidewalks and like nature to look at and things like that was always a priority for me. But yeah, I will walk for miles and it's never really been a problem for me. So I've always tried to put an emphasis on that. And then when I do have a car, I try to sort of pay it forward a little bit. I was always trying to give other people rides when I could. One of my coworkers had a notoriously like bad car and would break down, and so I'd go pick her up, I'd drive her home, and then she'd pay me the same respect as well. So if I didn't have a car, she drove me. And then a lot of the staff here kind of lives within similar areas, and if we don't, we pass through them. And so when we have big events, when a whole bunch of us are going in one location, we're really good at communicating in the office space about where we should all be driving and who can carpool with each other. Making like transportation accessible is a really important thing for us for our nature action crew. We want to make sure that folks who might not have reliable transportation can still get to work, and then they can carpool with us wherever they need to go. But when you get dropped off at the 3 Trail Center, you have to cross a lot of big major streets, and there's crosswalks, but like they're not super. Some drivers aren't super reliable. I have seen multiple times people kind of running red lights and stuff like that. And then once you get through that, you'll have to walk through the neighborhoods. And the streets are just really narrow and there's no sidewalk. And so especially like early in the morning or when the sun starts to set a little earlier, it can be a little bit hard to see when it gets dark outside. So there is a stop, but it's not like accessibility, and things aren't accessible if they're not safe. Sustainable transportation is such a great opportunity to be creative. Like, there is, just this straightforward bus, bike, walking, carpooling. But like, we thought that like electric bikes and scooters were wacky, and now we see them all over the place. Like, let's keep doing more things like that. What are some other ways we can sort of push the bounds of what transportation means and how we can be creative about it? And then I also hope that we start designing our neighborhoods and our cities and rebuilding them in a way that really make them people-centered, because the more you get to know your community, the safer you're going to be and the more invested you're going to be. And I think transportation plays this really important, although often I think like neglected or invisible component to the breakdown of community. And if we embrace like some weird ideas, if we talk to each other, if we get creative, I really hope that that will just be for the benefit of us all and build a more sustainable transportation community.